Okay, this is going to be an audio reading for the DSPolitics episode 4 summary thread because it's over 30 tweets long, and even though it's a summary, just reading it takes forever. So here we go. DSP goes live, dead air, technical difficulties. We start in 10 minutes. Spoiler warning, he's only going to get $66 in tips tonight, so anticipate many, many begments and a disgusting amount of guilt tripping. Tonight's topics will include the banning of social media for Australian youth, DSP ratioing his local news on Twitter, fear of mass deportations in schools, Joe Biden pardoning his son and the repercussions of it, and who could forget, South Korean martial law, as well as wrapping up with what he's very anticipating, the Snow White movie trailer. Right off the bat, we have text troubleshooting for the Stream Deck again, just like the first 45 minutes of the podcast, if you saw that, and a begment to hit the goals early tonight so that he doesn't have to worry about it and he can focus on the politics segments. And a tip asked him to cover Trump's cabinet picks. He says, no, because that's not fun to talk about until they're actually confirmed, and I'm going to talk about the real tangible topics as opposed to nonsense that people like to freak out about. And note, he will freak out over an imaginary streak all night. Has a little bit of a tism moment before beginning, talking about his RGB lights on a PC being set to red, white, and blue, and how they don't match up. Several minutes of talking about something that you can't see and only he can, and trying to troubleshoot the settings. At one point he does say, look at this, and you can't because you're just looking at him, not his screen. So I have a clip in the thread for that if you're interested. Stalling over, the show starts now. Intro plays, followed by his DSPolitics intro. He has a green screen of him in the Oval Office to, quote, prepare for his future show and this country. Says he's considering running for office because he does so well touching on difficult topics that no one else would touch with a 100-foot pole. Quote, DSPolitics is not just about law and politicians in power, it's about culture. So Snow White is getting a live-action movie, so that's going to be a hilarious laughingstock for us to end the show. A several-minute begment giving instructions on how to tip, play the intro again, and we move into topic 1. Hijinks in Australia, social media is banned for youth under 16. But stop, because we have a tech issue. Chat, how do we fix it? Help him. Please, he's waiting. Respond to him. He needs help right now. He can't Google it. He needs your help. Let's continue, though. Australian law now states that the Australian government can fine social media companies if they don't do their due diligence in preventing youth users. Phil spins this into a monologue about how the United States determines social media cannot be responsible for the content on their platforms. Completely unrelated things. Quote, this is kind of like when Obamacare was signed into law and then I moved across the country. Because kids in Australia don't have a way of proving their age yet, and Obamacare's website didn't work for Phil when he tried to use it, he's equating the two. Quote, if your kid is under 16, shouldn't the parents have some control over their life? Note, Phil is 42 and doesn't have kids. Phil had a, quote, rebellious teenage year because he was so offended at his mom telling him not to drive on the highway after he crashed his car on said highway. Quote, my parents limited the time I spent on the internet. We had AOL and stuff like that, but I didn't sit around online talking to people all day when I was younger. The SRK forums, Alphaism Radio, check out the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's pretty interesting. Phil says people who post all their personal information online are fools, and he's appalled that Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat are all banned, but YouTube and Twitch are not banned for youth in Australia. And back to ranting about Obamacare to close out the topic. A begment because there were no shoutouts, so to remind you to tip to give him shoutouts, and to please hit the goal so we can focus on the rest of the night. And topic 2, the emboldened manosphere. DSP says the world's a dangerous place. Men and women should be carrying, quote, self-defense things. Then several minutes later, he belittles a quote in the news story about a woman who was carrying pepper spray, and he said that she was weak-minded and had been fear-mongered into believing that she is not safe. DSP says mainstream media and women need to stop giving attention to, quote, troll comments on their social media. He insists the only way to make trolls go away is to stop regurgitating their comments. None of what they're saying exists outside of stupid internet trolling. And he gets dangerously close to self-awareness during that, and there's a clip in there about that as well. DSP shows his tweet to the local news and talking about Nick Fuentes, and says that Nick Fuentes' Jannies are insisting he's not the guy in the Destiny video. But it still could be. Who knows? Oh, and somewhere in there we just jumped to topic 3 about deportation. And DSP sounds pretty angry, and you can hear the tone shift in desperation as he's noticed there are no tips during those first segments. DSP says illegal immigrants should live in fear because of the consequence of the choices that they've made, and now the American people may want to get rid of them. He also says the only people that should really be held accountable for this, though, are the politicians who lied to the immigrants. And we stop for shoutouts. Mr. Puffy Nipples says that the deportation plan from Trump, and starts talking about it, and DSP stops him there and says, we aren't going to talk about that because Trump's not the president yet, but I got a good line of thought about that, which I'm sure DSP does. Then he goes to the bathroom break, comes back, shows off his RGBs on his keyboard, reiterates what the topics are. He says he's worried he's not going to have time to get to them all, but that doesn't stop him from doing a bagman about how he's only at $30, and the sooner he hits the goal, the better, so we don't have to worry about having a final countdown kind of deal. Spoiler alert, we will. And we move on to topic number 4, DSP talking about Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden. DSP says his green screen is much higher quality than that of MSNBC's, and reads a statement from the White House about this, but he can't figure out how to zoom in. So he just starts reading it. Chat tells him how to zoom in, but that doesn't stop him from just reading it, even once you can actually see it yourself. He criticizes Hunter Biden for avoiding paying taxes and for telling lies on his federal filings. Note there are several inaccuracies in DSP's bankruptcy filing, the most severe of which being that he listed microtransactions on mobile games as a business expense. DSP says all politicians are bad because they laugh at you while you struggle from week to week, so no politician is your best friend. Okay, that's the end of that topic, and Mr. Puffy Nipples with a tip, but DSP won't be reading any more of your tips, Kirk, because, quote, you're putting words in his mouth. $63 in support, so please keep supporting because there's only 30 minutes left, so here's that final countdown. The next story on the schedule is South Korea, but he decides to divert off into a story about people stirring up a ruckus in Columbus, Ohio, and insisting that Columbus is not a racist town and that because people were wearing masks in their rally, they weren't real. Anyways, let's move on to something more intelligent. We have about 20 minutes left. Nope, sorry Slayer, no time to get your topics in today. Okay, guys, 20 minutes left. Let's cinch it in. Let's hit the goal. And now we're going to finally move on to the South Korean situation. All you need to know is he doesn't know anything about the South Korean situation, and he just breezes past it and says, we'll have to wait for more developments, because that's really an ongoing kind of thing. And then he moves to the Culture Wars topic, which is the Snow White trailer. But before that, we need $84 more during this last story to be able to continue the streak. Once it's over, he won't be going late. He won't be doing a live daily wrap. He's going to end the show. So, he takes issue in that Snow White trailer with Gal Gadot's acting skills, Snow White's skin not being as white as snow, that the talking animals were CGI and they chose not to use live action animals, that the dwarves are auto-tuned, and that they are also CGI. And there's a quote. He says the queen is supposed to be the fairest in the land, but she's Jewish. You can come to your own conclusions on what he might have meant there. And then he pig-splains away the plot of Snow White, where he kind of ends on, I don't really remember what the plot was, and ends the topic. And says if no contributions come in, the streak is over. So he's going to do a quick live daily wrap to give you an extra couple minutes, since somebody clearly is waiting to tip to the last minute. And if we get no contributions, that's it. Streak's over. So he has concerns about the long-term viability of the show, looking for feedback since support was low, insists it can't be the politics show, talks about his Stalker 2 gameplay, reiterates all the topics that we went through just now, and that's it. He ends the daily wrap, then plays the slideshow for 60 seconds before he comes back on stream and says, I have received nothing. I just saw you guys were still in chat from when I ended the show 60 seconds ago, and I just wanted to tease you a little bit. And that's it. That's the end of the show. That's the end of the streak. That's probably going to be the end of DSPolitics.